"You're nothing without me." That's what Darryl said, loud enough for everyone in the courtroom to hear. His voice didn't crack. His eyes didn't blink. He meant every word. And Lauren? She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She didn't even look at him. She sat there, her hand resting gently over her belly, carrying the twins he no longer claimed as blessings. Only burdens. Outside, the courthouse smelled like concrete and shame. Inside, Lauren's world was cracking in silence. Darryl signed the divorce papers with a smile. He stood up, fixed his tie, and said the words again, this time slower. "You're nothing. No man will love you, not with that baggage." That baggage. He meant her unborn children. His children. She watched him walk away with everything. His name, his pride, his paycheck. She left with stretch marks, sleepless nights ahead, and 2 hearts beating under hers. Have you ever been left behind and told you wouldn't make it? Has someone looked you in the face and decided you were less than, simply because you needed time to grow? Because you weren't what they expected anymore? This isn't just a story about a man who left his wife. This is about a woman who became everything after someone said she was nothing. And one day, years later, she signed his paycheck. Maybe you've been there too. Maybe you loved someone who only loved your silence. And maybe you were left with a baby, or a bill, or both. Maybe you sacrificed your career, your confidence, or your health, just to keep the peace in a home that didn't love you back. You gave all you had, and when you finally asked for a little more, respect, space, a second chance, you were told you were asking too much. Sound familiar? Let's be honest. Some people don't want partners. They want props. Darryl didn't want a wife. He wanted someone who smiled for pictures and stayed small while he rose. But Lauren? She had plans. She wanted more. She wanted to go back to school while pregnant. She wanted to raise her kids and build something they could be proud of. That was too much for a man like him. So he left. And when she caught him cheating, he filed for divorce first. Not because he was right, but because he wanted to say he walked away. He needed to win, even if the prize was his own loneliness. But here's the real question. What would you do if years later, the same man who crushed you walked into your office asking for a job? What if the man who laughed at you now sat 2 floors below, picking up a paycheck you signed every month? Would you forgive him? Would you fire him? Would you make him pay? Or would you rise so high that his presence couldn't touch your peace? Because that's what Lauren did, and this is her story. CTA first, now embedded. If you've ever been underestimated, ignored, or told you were nothing, hit the like button right now. Type, "She became everything" in the comments. If you believe success is the best reply to disrespect. The room was quiet except for the scribble of the court clerk's pen and the occasional shuffle of papers. Lauren sat still, her palms flat against the wood of the courtroom bench. She could feel the sweat under her arms, the slight cramp in her lower back, and the twin flutter of kicks in her belly. 7 months along, no ring, no vows, no husband willing to stay. Across the room, Darryl sat back in his chair like a man doing business. Neat, charcoal grey suit, gold cufflinks, wedding band already gone, eyes dry, arms folded. The judge read over the final documents, but Lauren barely heard him. All her focus was on Darryl. She kept waiting for a flicker of regret, a shift in his jaw, a sign that this was hard for him too. Nothing. The judge asked if there was anything either party wanted to say. That's when Darryl looked directly at her. His voice cut the silence like a blade. "You're nothing without me." Gasps didn't follow. This wasn't a movie. The room didn't erupt. The judge didn't even flinch, but Lauren did. Inside, she felt the crack. Deep, raw, slow. Her hand drifted to her belly again. Not protectively, not even out of habit. It was the only part of her that felt like hers anymore. Darryl's attorney leaned in to whisper, but Darryl kept his eyes on Lauren. "No man's going to want you, not with baggage like that." That baggage. His children. Twins. Her lips parted, but she said nothing. What could she say that wouldn't make her look bitter or broken? She wouldn't give him that satisfaction. The gavel came down. Divorce granted. Just like that, she wasn't Lauren Kane anymore. She was Lauren Nothing. Lauren, the single mother-to-be. Lauren, the one left behind. Darryl stood. He buttoned his jacket slowly, like he had all the time in the world. He walked past her on the way out and paused just long enough to say it again, so soft it sounded like a whisper but stung like a punch. "You were always the weak link." Lauren didn't move. She blinked, inhaled, let the breath burn its way down to her lungs and back up again. She forced her spine to straighten. Outside the courtroom, Nia was waiting, coat in hand, eyes wide. "Well?" she asked, scanning Lauren's face. "What happened?" "He got everything," Lauren said. Nia snorted. "Please." That man walked out of here with a suitcase full of arrogance and no soul. You've got the twins. You've got a future. I've got rent due on Friday and no income," Lauren said flatly. "Which means you've got motivation." Lauren raised her eyes. He said, "I'm nothing." Nia stepped closer. "Good. Let him say that. Now all you have to do is make sure he never forgets how wrong he was." They walked slowly through the parking lot, Lauren gripping her coat tighter as the wind picked up. Her shoes pinched. Her back ached. The ache wasn't new. It had been there since the second trimester, but now it felt like the weight of everything. A failed marriage, a future she didn't ask for, and a man who couldn't even look at his own children as something to be proud of. At the car, Nia opened the passenger door and helped Lauren in. As she buckled her seatbelt, Lauren stared down at her belly. The doctor said she was having a boy and a girl. She hadn't chosen names yet. "I don't even have a crib," she murmured. Nia started the car. "Girl, we'll use laundry baskets if we have to. But you're not alone. You've got me. And Mama Kane's been calling me every week asking how you're doing." Lauren looked up sharply. "Margot?" "She says she doesn't agree with anything Darryl's done. She cried on the phone, Lauren. She asked if she could still be in the twins' lives." Lauren bit her lip, unsure. But the thought of Margot holding her babies brought some strange comfort. Darryl's mother had always been kind, too kind to have raised someone so cruel. "I'll think about it," Lauren said softly. "Good. Now lean that seat back. You're growing two future world changers in there." The drive back to Lauren's apartment was silent. She looked out the window and watched the city blur past. Billboards advertising. Family cars, couples holding hands, cafes she couldn't afford. She didn't want revenge. Not exactly. She wanted a life so full, so rich with peace and purpose, that Darryl's voice would become background noise, a whisper from a chapter that no longer mattered. At home, she changed out of her court clothes slowly. The black dress pooled around her ankles. Her stomach was round and stretched, her feet swollen. She stared at herself in the mirror. This was not weakness. This was work. This was creation. She grabbed her notebook, the one with all her old plans. She crossed out every line that had included Darryl's name. The joint business idea, the couple's therapy goal, the maternity leave budget. She started a new page, new goals. 1. Find a job with evening shifts. 2. Complete final semester online. 3. Build savings. 4. Name the twins something powerful. 2 weeks later, Lauren was working nights at a local nursing home. The uniform was itchy. The hours were brutal. The tasks were humbling. Changing adult diapers, cleaning spills, dealing with patients who cursed or cried without reason. But the paycheck came. Small but real. She worked the night shift, studied during nap breaks, and pumped breast milk in the staff room. When the twins came early, Kai first, then Layla, it was Nia who drove her to the hospital. Lauren screamed through contractions and gripped her friend's hand until her knuckles turned white. There was no one else. Darryl didn't come. He didn't call. But Kai came out tiny and loud. Layla followed, quiet but alert, eyes wide and curious. Lauren held both of them against her chest and wept, not because she was sad, but because for the first time in months she felt whole. Back in her apartment, the real test began. 2 bassinets took up the living room. bottles everywhere, a mountain of laundry, no sleep, no silence, no Daryl, but also no expectations, no insults, no manipulation, just her and the babies, and sometimes Nia, who dropped off food, helped burp the twins, and made bad jokes to keep Lauren smiling. One day, Margot showed up with a box of diapers and homemade stew. Lauren opened the door slowly. "I don't want to be in the middle," Margot said. "I just want to love them. If you'll let me." Lauren stepped aside. That night, Margot held Kai while Layla slept on Lauren's chest. The apartment was quiet. No men shouting, no threats. Just a new kind of family, reshaped by pain but built on something real. Lauren looked down at her babies. "You're not baggage," she whispered. "You're the beginning." Everyone expected Lauren to disappear. After the divorce, after the birth, after the sleepless nights and stretch marks, most assumed she would fall apart. Even the women at the nursing home gave her that tilted head look of pity. The kind that says, "You poor thing, you'll never make it through this." But Lauren wasn't wired to fold. Her strength didn't roar, it whispered. Quietly, steadily. On days when she had 3 hours of sleep and 1 diaper left, she still showed up. For the twins, for herself, for the dream that hadn't died, just gone underground for a while. The nursing home became more than a job. It was a place where she learned how to manage people in pain, how to stay calm under pressure, how to juggle chaos without breaking down. Those lessons would become the backbone of the leader she didn't yet know she'd become. The schedule was brutal. She'd come home at 7 a.m., feed the babies, nap when they did, then attend her online. Business courses in the afternoons, with spit up on her shirt, and a pacifier nearby. Nia continued to show up like clockwork. "You know," Nia said one afternoon, bouncing Layla on her knee, "every time I come in here, something's changed. You got new formulas lined up like a science experiment. You've got a whiteboard schedule like you're running a lab." "I just don't want to forget anything," Lauren replied, flipping through her planner. "If I miss a quiz, I lose points. If I miss a bottle, they scream for hours." "Girl," Nia said with a laugh, "you're raising CEOs already." Lauren smiled. "No. I'm raising leaders. The world's got enough bosses." Margot kept visiting too. At first it was once a week, then twice. She never asked about Daryl, never offered excuses, just rocked the twins, brought groceries, folded laundry without being asked. "I want to earn my place back," Margot said once. "You don't have to," Lauren replied. "You didn't leave us." There was a long pause. Then Margot whispered, "But I didn't stop him either." They never spoke about it again. But something settled that day. A small, quiet forgiveness. Months passed. The twins grew louder, hungrier, smarter. Kai started crawling first. Layla followed 2 days later, but with more flair. She was expressive, giggly, full of curiosity. Kai was quiet, focused, and always watching. They turned 1. Then 2. Lauren threw them a small party in the apartment. Balloons taped to the walls. Cupcakes from a discount bakery. Nia brought a second-hand train set. Margot crocheted tiny sweaters. As Lauren watched her children dig their fingers into frosting, she looked around the room and realized this was joy. Not loud, expensive joy, but joy with roots. And she was the one who created it. Her graduation ceremony was virtual. She wore a wrinkled robe over leggings and held Layla on her lap during the final speech. When the dean said, "Class of Achievers," Lauren laughed. "You have no idea." That night, after the twins were asleep, Lauren opened her laptop and started something new. She'd been researching the staffing industry, healthcare specifically. She knew the holes. She lived them every day. Facilities needed reliable workers. Workers needed support. Agencies took too much and gave too little. She wanted to change that. She named it L&L Enterprises, after Layla and Kai, her anchors and her fuel. Her business plan was typed at 2 a.m., her first pitch deck built while folding baby clothes. Her first logo was sketched on a napkin while waiting for Kai's pediatric appointment. She didn't know where it would lead. but she was finally building something of her own. It started with one client, a nursing home director who'd seen Lauren juggle chaos with grace and asked, "Do you ever think of doing this on a bigger scale?" She said yes before she was ready. She hired 3 CNAs from her own shift to take on new placements, bought a used printer, turned her kitchen table into a command center. She failed. A lot. The printer jammed. One hire ghosted a client. A facility refused to pay. Still, she pushed through. By the time the twins were 3, she'd moved from the kitchen to a rented desk in a co-working space. L&L Enterprises had 5 contracted workers and 2 part-time interns. She paid herself last. But the twins were eating well, sleeping in proper beds, wearing shoes she didn't have to stretch. Lauren was still tired, but it wasn't survival anymore. It was the exhaustion of purpose. One night, after the twins fell asleep, Lauren sat on the couch with Nia, flipping through a folder of contracts. "You ever think about him?" Nia asked. Lauren didn't pretend not to know who she meant. "Sometimes," she said, "not like I miss him, more like, I wonder if he's ever missed this." Nia looked around the room, half home, half office. Drawings on the fridge, laptops on the counter, a sense of life that buzzed even in silence. "If he doesn't miss this," Nia said, "he's more broken than we thought." Lauren exhaled. "He said I was nothing." Nia looked at her. "Girl, you became everything." A year later, Lauren was offered office space downtown. A client loved her model and wanted to invest. She walked through the empty floor-to-ceiling windows, polished, wood, conference rooms, and signed the lease with shaking hands. Kai and Layla were 4 now, curious, energetic, and full of questions. "Is this your building?" Layla asked. "No, baby," Lauren said with a smile, "but it's mine for now." "Like a boss?" Kai added. "Exactly." That night, Lauren stood in the middle of her new office as the sun went down. She thought about the courtroom, the cold bench, Daryl's voice. "You're nothing without me." She placed her palms on her hips, took a deep breath. "Watch me," she whispered. The elevator dinged softly as Lauren stepped out into the polished hallway of her new office. Her heels echoed against the tile, a sound she never imagined she'd come to love. Each step felt earned, intentional. Every corner of this space was a reminder of the war she'd survived, and won. On the wall behind her glass desk hung a simple framed sign. "Worth is not assigned, it is owned." She hadn't bought it. Layla made it in preschool with help from Nia, using glitter glue and pipe cleaners. Kai added 2 stick figures holding hands beneath the words. That framed piece hung like armor, gentle but unshakable. Lauren sat down, opened her laptop, and began reviewing the week's placements. The agency had grown faster than she expected. She now had 12 full-time staff, over 30 contracted health workers, and a new office manager named Denise who was training better than Lauren could have hoped. People called her MS Lauren in meetings. Vendors asked for her by name. Clients respected her time. And for the first time in years, she had money in her savings, and enough to say no when something didn't feel right. It was mid-review when her assistant buzzed. "There's a walk in looking for an open operations role," the voice said. "He says he's willing to take any position. His name is Daryl Kane." Lauren's hand froze on the mouse. She blinked. It had been years since she heard his name aloud in a professional setting. "Send him in," she said after a pause, voice calm. The door opened slowly. Same face, less sharpness. Daryl looked smaller, still tall, still dressed well, but aged. Not just physically, in spirit. His posture didn't hold the weight of ego anymore. When their eyes met, he froze for half a second. "I didn't know this was your company," he said quickly. "They said Landell. I didn't realize that stood for—" "Kai and Layla," Lauren said, standing. His lips parted slightly. "They're okay?" "They're more than okay." A beat of silence passed. The room seemed to breathe around them. I've had a rough year," he said. "My last firm collapsed. "I've been trying to get back into operations, and someone said you were hiring." Lauren said nothing. "I know what I said," he added. "In that courtroom. I can't take it back. But I'm not here for forgiveness. I need work, and I need to be a better father." Lauren looked at him closely. His suit was clean but not tailored. His shoes were worn. His hands fidgeted, a man unfamiliar with humility, learning it late. "Send your resume," she said calmly. "If HR finds it useful, they'll reach out." Daryl blinked. "That's it?" She nodded. "This is a business, Daryl. We have a process. I don't make emotional hires." He didn't push, maybe because he knew her tone. The quiet one, the one she used when she meant something deeply. He nodded. "Thank you." As he walked out, Lauren sat back down, steady, unmoved. Not cold, just clear. That night, she made pancakes with the twins. Kai wore his robot pajamas. Layla insisted on using the heart-shaped cookie cutter for hers. "Can Reese come over tomorrow?" Layla asked mid-bite. Lauren glanced up. "Why?" "He fixes stuff," she said, licking syrup off her fingers. Kai added, "And he reads with all the funny voices." Lauren smiled. Reese had become more than the guy who fixed the copier months ago. He had a quiet kindness that never made demands. He brought her lunch sometimes, helped with the twins, respected boundaries, and never brought up the past. He showed up without expectation. "I'll ask him," she said. Reese came the next day. He brought a book for Kai, a music puzzle for Layla, and herbal tea for Lauren. He always knocked, never assumed. That evening, after the twins fell asleep, Lauren walked him to the door. "You're good with them," she said softly. "They're easy to love." She nodded. He paused. "You okay?" "I saw Daryl today." Reese didn't flinch. "Here?" "Applied for a job." A short pause. "You hire him?" "I told him to apply through HR. I'm not his fixer." Reese gave a small nod. "Want me to leave?" Lauren looked at him. "No," she said, and for the first time in years, she let herself lean, just a little, into someone else. A week later, HR hired Daryl for a mid-level role. Lauren didn't interfere. He showed up on time, wore his badge, did the work, spoke politely. He worked 2 floors below her. Every payday, his check carried her signature. She never rubbed it in, never avoided him either. She had moved past needing revenge. She had moved into something better, peace that didn't require his validation. The last time she cried over Daryl was the day Kai first said "Mama" while she typed a client invoice. Everything after that, she let go. Lauren stood at the sink in the staff break room, scrubbing out a baby bottle with one hand while holding her phone with the other. The night shift at the nursing home was halfway done. Her feet ached, her back was sore, and the buttons on her uniform tugged where her post-baby body had yet to settle. She hadn't had more than 4 hours of sleep in the last 2 days. On her phone screen was a course module labeled Intro to Healthcare Staffing Management, Week 3. She hadn't watched the video yet. She hadn't submitted the quiz. It was due in 5 hours. Behind her, a patient moaned down the hall. She knew the sound. Mr. Abel again. He'd wake up disoriented, angry, and likely throw his dinner tray at the nearest wall. Lauren didn't flinch. She'd grown used to chaos. The bottle finally came clean. She set it on a towel, pulled off her gloves, and walked back to the staff room. Inside her tote bag were breast pump parts, a textbook with food stains, and a planner full of crossed-out to-do lists. She didn't cry anymore, not from exhaustion, not from loneliness. Crying took time, and she had none. It had been 4 months since the twins were born. 4 months since the court. 4 months since Daryl vanished without so much as a text. 4 months since she'd gone from wife to mother with no pause in between. Margot came by once or twice a week to hold the twins. She brought wipes, formula, and homemade soup. She never spoke about Daryl, but Lauren could see the guilt in her eyes. Nia had become her emergency contact. She babysat when she could, texted check-ins every morning, and showed up with coffee when Lauren looked too worn to stand. The rest, Lauren did alone. Every night at work was a race. Check vitals, clean rooms, reposition bed-bound patients, report changes to the nurse. Then, during her 15-minute break, she'd lock herself in the tiny staff bathroom and pump milk, sometimes while answering discussion board posts for her class on her phone. Her body was giving everything, but her mind was building something bigger. She kept a notebook inside her bag. Ideas, frustrations, observations, things she'd change if she ever ran a healthcare facility, things that didn't sit right with her as a worker, as a woman, as a mother. Why do agencies take 40% of pay and leave workers scrambling for gas money? Why are the best CNAs always quitting? What if someone treated both sides fairly? For once. At home, the apartment was tiny but clean. The twin bassinets sat side by side under the window. She arranged their toys by color. Nia teased her for it. "You're nesting like the babies are still inside," she said once. "I need order," Lauren replied. "Everything else is noise." Kai was quiet. He'd stare at her while feeding, blinking slowly like he was memorizing her face. Layla was the louder one, already squealing, kicking, impatient. Lauren saw parts of herself in both of them. She didn't talk to them like babies. She told them things. "Mommy's learning payroll software today. Mommy got a 93 on her quiz. Mommy didn't cry when the nurse said she was late." She treated them like teammates, like witnesses, because she never wanted them to grow up thinking she folded. On a rainy Tuesday, she got her first C on an assignment. It crushed her, not because of the grade, but because it meant she hadn't done her best. She reread her submission. It was full of typos. Her citations were incomplete. She'd written it half asleep with one hand while nursing Kai. She closed the laptop, walked into the bathroom, and sat on the closed toilet seat. The silence pressed against her chest. She stared at the peeling wallpaper and said aloud, "I am not failing." She said it again, louder, "I am not failing." The next morning, she emailed her professor. She explained her schedule, her babies, her job. She didn't beg. She explained. The reply came back in one sentence. "Resubmit by Sunday. You're doing more than most." That night, she rewrote the entire paper. Scored a 98. By the twins' 6-month mark, Lauren had lost 15 pounds, but her eyes held a new fire. She had created a routine: work, pump, study, feed, sleep, repeat. The twins slept in 3-hour intervals. She adjusted her life in 3-hour blocks. Nia called her a machine. "You're not supposed to thrive like this," she said, watching Lauren flip flashcards while bouncing Layla in a wrap carrier. "I'm not thriving," Lauren replied. "I'm preparing." For what? Lauren didn't answer. But inside, she knew. For freedom. One afternoon, during a work meeting at the nursing home, the assistant director snapped at her in front of others. "You're not management, Lauren. Know your place." She felt her jaw tighten. Her hands stayed still. Later that night, she wrote in her notebook, "My place will be wherever I decide to build." Lauren didn't wait for permission to start her next chapter. The moment she submitted her final project for her degree, she bought a second-hand laptop from a reseller downtown and cleared half of her small dining table. That table had served as a workspace, a baby-changing station, and a meal counter. Now, it was a business launchpad. She applied for a small business license under the name L&L Enterprises, L for Layla, L for Kai. "They gave me the name," she whispered to Nia. "The least I can do is make it mean something." Nia, always skeptical but loyal, leaned over the half-folded business plan on the table. "You sure about this? You've got the degree, the nursing home hours. Most people would just relax." "I didn't do all that to relax," Lauren said. "I did it to build." She started with what she knew: shift gaps at nursing homes and tired workers who needed better pay and managers who needed people they could trust. Lauren created a simple flyer offering on-call staff placement for elder care facilities. It had a Gmail address, a Google Voice number, and a logo she designed on a free app. She printed 50 copies at the library and dropped them off during lunch breaks and before night shifts. She didn't expect much. But then one night, her phone buzzed while she was feeding Kai. "This, L, the voice asked. "We're down 2 CNAs for the morning shift. Can you send someone?" Lauren sat up, heart racing. "I'll confirm now." She didn't have staff yet, but she knew 2 girls, Sarah and Mel, who always complained about needing extra shifts. She called them, pitched the job, and got 2 yeses in 10 minutes. That morning, they showed up, on time, uniformed, professional. The facility called her back 3 days later. "You got more?" It grew from there. Slowly, Lauren used her nursing home contacts, the moms in her online parenting group, even Margot's church bulletin board. By the time the twins turned 1, she had 3 part-time staffers and had placed over 20 shifts. She was still nursing, still working nights, but her voice had changed. On the phone with clients, she was confident, clear, professional. "This is Lauren from L&L Enterprises. I have a CNA available to start at 6 a.m. Do you require certification copies sent by email or fax?" No one asked if she had children. No one cared how old she was. They needed help. She provided it. She earned every check. Her first $1,000 profit came with a handwritten note from the facility. "Director, your workers were the most respectful we've had in weeks. Keep sending them." She framed the note. Nia laughed at her. "You really put that up?" she asked. "It's not the money that matters," Lauren said. "It's the trust." She used that $1,000 to rent a desk in a shared office downtown. It wasn't much, just a cubicle with fast Wi-Fi and access to a printer, but it gave her space to focus. A room that wasn't filled with toys or dishes or baby blankets. When she brought the twins by once, the receptionist cooed, "These the L&L?" Lauren beamed. "Yep." "My board of directors." But success didn't come without setbacks. Sarah quit mid-week with no warning. A placement called to complain that one of her workers was late and smelled like weed. A client tried to pay her late, twice. Lauren stayed firm. Professional. She refunded 1 shift, replaced a worker, cut off a client. She also began researching labor laws, payroll systems, and the legal side of staffing. Her nights were still sleepless, but now for different reasons. Nia noticed the change. "You used to be tired and sad," she said, watching Lauren type invoices one evening. "Now you're just tired and sharp." Lauren smiled. Sharp cuts through. At home, the twins were walking, talking, asking questions. "Mama, do you fix people?" Kai asked one day. "No, baby," she replied. "I find the right people to help." "Are you the boss?" "Yes." Layla clapped. "Can I be a boss too?" "You already are." Margot brought over groceries on Fridays. She started calling the twins my little miracles. She rarely mentioned Daryl. But one day, while folding laundry, she said, "He doesn't ask about them much, but I show him pictures. I think he knows what he gave up." Lauren didn't reply. Some things didn't need a response. One evening, she got a call from a large facility chain. They needed staff for 3 locations over the next month. 12-hour shifts. Competitive pay. Lauren didn't hesitate. "I'll send you a schedule by tomorrow," she said. After she hung up, she sat at the edge of her bed in silence. Her eyes welled up. This wasn't a side hustle anymore. It was a company. Lauren sat in her car one morning, engine off, just staring at the building in front of her. It was a modest brick structure, a co-working hub with large windows and tall plants inside. But to her, it felt like a skyscraper. Because inside that building, they had offered her her first private office. No more desk near a copy machine. No more working while others peered over her shoulder. She had a door, a lock, her name on it. L&L Enterprises, founder and director. Lauren M. She hadn't cried in months, but sitting there in the driver's seat, with Kai and Layla's snack cups in the back seat, she let a few tears fall. Not from exhaustion, not from fear, from pride. Moving in wasn't glamorous. She hauled boxes of paper, a second-hand desk, her creaky laptop, and a tiny electric kettle. She brought 2 framed photos, one of the twins and one of her mother, who passed when she was 16. She hung the photo above her monitor. "We're doing it, Mama," she whispered. It took her 3 days to settle in. And once she did, the business shifted gears again. Clients now came through referrals. Facilities she hadn't even approached were emailing her directly. Her workers told others about how Lauren handled payroll, on time, with receipts, with kindness. She started receiving unsolicited applications. She even got a call from a former nursing home supervisor. "I hear you're hiring," the woman said. Lauren smiled. "I remember you told me to know my place." "I do now." At night, the twins slept deeper. Layla always curled in her blanket like a burrito. Kai stretched his arms wide like he was claiming the space. Lauren studied them from the doorway. They didn't know yet what she had done for them, what she had denied herself, what she had pushed through. One day they would. Reese entered her life like a question she wasn't ready to answer. It started with a copier breakdown. He was the on-call technician from the office maintenance team. Tall, medium build, neat beard, soft-spoken. He fixed the copier without talking much. But before he left, he noticed Lauren's desk, scattered with crayon drawings and nursing schedules. "Twins?" he asked, pointing to a sketch of Layla in a tutu. "Yep," she said. "Double joy," he replied. He didn't flirt. He didn't overstep. He smiled, nodded, and left. He came back the next week. Then again, once, when she stayed late, he brought her a sandwich and said, "You've been here since morning. I figured you missed lunch." She didn't ask how he knew. She just said, "Thank you." Another time, he showed up on a weekend and fixed a glitch in her printer, unprompted. "You're not even on the schedule," she said. He shrugged, didn't feel like sitting at home. Helping here feels better. She didn't know what to do with a man who didn't want anything from her. So she just let it be. The first time he met the twins, they were coloring in her office during a Saturday shift. Reese crouched down to their level and asked Kai what his favorite toy was. "Robots," Kai said. "Same," Reese replied. "You want to see a video of the one I built in high school?" They sat there for 10 minutes watching old videos on Reese's phone, while Layla sat on his lap, asking endless questions. Lauren watched from across the room. She didn't say a word. She didn't have to. Nia noticed. "That copier man shows up a lot," she teased one Sunday afternoon while folding Lauren's laundry. "He's just helpful," Lauren replied. "Uh-huh. And tall. And fine." Lauren laughed. "I'm not ready for that." "Maybe not. But he's already fitting in." By the time the twins turned 4, Lauren's life looked nothing like the girl who left that courtroom. She now had 6 full-time workers, over 50 rotating caregivers, and her own small conference room with a frosted glass wall. She dropped the twins off at pre-K every morning in pressed slacks and heels. She packed their lunches with sticky notes that said things like, "Be kind today," but also strong. "Tell the truth, even if it's hard. Love, Mommy." At work, she led team meetings. She signed contracts. She negotiated rates. She turned down clients who talked over her or tried to undercut her workers. And every 2 weeks, she signed paychecks. She never looked at the names until one day she saw it. Daryl Kane. Her pen hovered. She didn't hesitate. She signed, and she kept it moving. Because power didn't have to be loud. The day Daryl walked into Lauren's office building, it was raining. A slow, steady drizzle soaked the sidewalks, darkening his once polished shoes. He didn't have a driver waiting. No umbrella. No tailored suit. Just a resume in a damp envelope and a hope that someone, she, would give him 5 minutes. He hadn't seen Lauren in years. Not since that courthouse. Not since the words, "You're nothing." Not since she walked away with a belly full of twins and her dignity still intact. Back then, he never imagined needing her. But today, standing in the lobby of L&L Enterprises, his name reduced to a sign. In sheet and a visitor badge, Daryl finally understood how far he had fallen. He almost left. Twice. The receptionist hadn't recognized his name. That stung. Once upon a time, people knew who he was before he entered a room. Back then, he ran departments, LED meetings, made decisions that echoed through boardrooms. Now, he sat quietly in the waiting area, watching employees pass by in branded polos, L&L Enterprises stitched proudly across their chests. Darryl stared at the logo, L&L. He had once joked Lauren would never finish school, never balance motherhood and ambition. Now, she was running a company, and he needed a job. Upstairs, Lauren's assistant buzzed her line. There's a walk-in asking about the operations opening. He brought a physical resume. Lauren didn't look up. We don't take walk-ins without an appointment. His name is Darryl Kane. Silence. Lauren paused for a breath. She didn't feel anger or panic, just a stillness. Send him in. Darryl stepped into the office, still dripping slightly from the rain. She looked up from her laptop, not surprised by his face, but by how much smaller it felt now. He looked like a man who hadn't heard his own voice in a long time. I didn't know this was your company, he said. Her voice was calm. It has their initials. He blinked. L&L. Layla and Kai. They're doing well. He nodded awkwardly, as if unsure if he was allowed to smile at the mention of his children. I'm not here to cause trouble, he said. I just need to work. I made mistakes, I know that. But I've been trying to get back on my feet for months, and I'd rather start somewhere run by someone who knows what she's doing. Lauren kept her eyes on his. What happened to your last company? Collapsed, poor investments, some legal issues. My name's still attached to one of them, but I was cleared. I've been out of work since. I'm starting over. Lauren stood and walked around to the front of the desk. She didn't offer a hug, or water, or a chair. You'll need to submit your resume to HR like everyone else. If they think you're qualified, you'll get a call. I don't do personal hires. Darryl looked like he wanted to say more. Maybe apologize. Maybe beg. But Lauren wasn't handing out absolution. She was handing out policy. He nodded slowly. Okay, thank you. And then he left. She sat back down, opened a new invoice on her screen, and kept working. The next week, HR hired him. Mid-level consultant. Temporary contract. 3-month trial. No special treatment. He was placed 2 floors below her, in a shared workspace, with a company badge and a performance review date on the calendar. Lauren didn't attend his orientation. She didn't speak to him unless necessary. And every 2 weeks, his paycheck had her signature at the bottom. He noticed. Of course he did. The first time he saw it, he stared at the bottom of the stub for a long time. It didn't burn. It humbled. He folded it neatly and put it in his pocket. Word traveled fast. Hey, is that Lauren's ex? One staffer whispered. I thought he was like a VP or something, another replied. Now he's in shared ops? Dang. But no one dared say anything to Lauren. Not because she was feared, but because she had earned a respect so solid, no one wanted to risk shaking it. She ran L&L with discipline, warmth, and backbone. There were no shortcuts, no gossip, no room for ego, not even Darryl's. A month passed. One Friday, Lauren stood at a team mixer with her core staff and investors, her curls pulled into a sleek bun, a tailored navy blazer over cream slacks. Reese stood quietly beside her, offering small smiles and holding a plate of shrimp skewers. From across the room, Darryl watched. He didn't approach. He saw how easily the room responded to her. How investors nodded when she spoke. How staff leaned in. How Reese's presence beside her didn't dim her shine. It supported it. He felt invisible. And for once, he accepted that feeling. Darryl lingered in the hallway after the mixer, clutching his paper plate of untouched food. Most of the guests had filed out. Some said goodnight to Lauren on their way. Reese was helping her pack up the leftovers, offering to take the garbage to the office kitchenette. Darryl had planned to leave quietly, but instead, his feet moved toward Lauren's door. He knocked twice, softly. Come in, she said without looking up. She didn't expect it to be him, but she wasn't surprised when it was. Darryl stepped inside slowly. "I won't take much of your time." Lauren nodded once and waited. He stood for a moment, silent. Then, "I know I was wrong." Still, Lauren said nothing. "I said cruel things. I thought I was right, back then, that I needed a certain kind of woman beside me. Quiet, easy, predictable. You weren't that." She looked up. "No. I wasn't. And I punished you for it," he added. "Instead of seeing your strength, I saw it as a threat. I called it baggage. I told you no one would want you." He exhaled. "I didn't know what I had until—" She tilted her head slightly. "Until you needed a job?" That one stung. "No," he whispered. "Until I saw my children run to another man." Lauren's face remained unreadable. "Until I realized you'd built something without bitterness, without shortcuts. You didn't shout. You didn't drag me. You rose." There was a long silence. Finally, she closed the folder in front of her and leaned back in her chair. "I didn't rise because of you, Darryl. I rose because of them, and because I refused to let your words be true. I see that now." She nodded. "Regret is free." He looked at her, confused. She clarified. "Anyone can say, 'I'm sorry.' It costs nothing. Growth costs something. Are you willing to pay that?" He swallowed. "Yes." "Then start by staying consistent. No speeches, no tears. Just show up. For them. And for yourself." He nodded slowly. And then she turned back to her screen. In the weeks that followed, Darryl did exactly that. He arrived on time, left late, delivered reports early, worked quietly. He avoided favoritism and earned small praise from team leads. More importantly, he began showing up in other ways. It started with birthdays. Layla's birthday came first. Darryl brought a box of cupcakes with purple frosting and little musical notes piped in icing. She was into singing now, made everyone clap as she twirled in her dress. Lauren stood nearby, arms folded, watching the room. Darryl approached carefully. "Happy birthday, baby girl." Layla looked at him, blinking. "You came. I wouldn't miss it." She hesitated, then took a cupcake from the box and handed it to him. "Only the pink ones are good," she warned. He chuckled. "Then I'll take 2. Kai peeked from behind Lauren's legs. Darryl knelt to his level. "Still into robots?" Kai nodded. "Want to build one with me sometime?" Kai's eyes lit up. Lauren said nothing, but she noticed. At the next parent-teacher meeting, both Reese and Darryl showed up. Awkward, yes, but peaceful. Reese greeted Darryl with a respectful nod. Darryl nodded back. They sat on opposite ends of the small classroom while the teacher explained the twins' reading progress and behavior. When she said, "They're some of the most emotionally mature kids I've had," Lauren smiled. She already knew why. At work, Darryl stayed low. He didn't try to climb quickly. He didn't name-drop Lauren. He took the long route, finally, and the employees who whispered behind his back, they stopped, not because they forgot, but because they saw the shift. He apologized to the finance assistant he once snapped at. He offered to cover when a junior colleague needed time off. He volunteered to help with weekend scheduling, even when it wasn't his job. Consistency, not confessions. Just like Lauren had asked. One evening, Lauren walked into her office and found a small envelope on her desk. No name, just a note inside. It said, "Thank you for not slamming the door. Some lessons only come when you walk back through it humbly." No signature, but she knew. She put it in her drawer, not because she needed the reminder, but because he did. The sun was setting when Lauren stepped onto the front porch of her townhome, barefoot, a mug of chamomile in her hand. Kai and Layla were drawing on the sidewalk with chalk, Layla sketching big loops, and hearts, Kai working on a precise robot with square arms and laser eyes. Reese sat on the steps, tying a loose shoelace on Kai's sneaker while humming some silly tune. Lauren smiled, her body finally relaxing for the first time all day. Inside, her phone buzzed. It was an automated payroll alert. She opened it, scrolled, and paused briefly. Daryl's name was on the list, signed and processed by her. She looked up at the kids again, at Reese, at the sky turning soft orange above her, and then she put the phone away. Later that evening, as Lauren cleared dinner plates, Daryl knocked gently on the door. He didn't expect to come inside. That wasn't the arrangement. Reese opened the door and greeted him without tension. They just finished eating. Daryl nodded. Just wanted to drop this off. He held out a box. Kai's science kit. A new one. Batteries included. Reese stepped back, looked at Lauren, and she gave a small nod. Daryl entered the living room quietly. Kai lit up when he saw him. "Daddy, is that the one with gears?" "Yup, and the solar panel." Kai grabbed it with wide eyes. "Thanks." Layla came over too. "Where's mine?" Daryl chuckled. "Yours is coming next week. It sings." Lauren watched the exchange, measured, calm. Daryl stood again, turned toward her. "Thanks for letting me drop by." She nodded. "They're thriving. I see that." A beat passed. He glanced at Reese, who now stood by the hallway, watching, but not guarding. "I think they've chosen," Daryl said softly. Lauren didn't answer, and I'm okay with it. Still, she stayed quiet. "He's good to them," Daryl added. "And to you." This time, she met his eyes. "I needed someone who knew how to stay." Daryl nodded. "I see that now." He left. No breakdown, no dramatic apology, just truth and peace. Lauren stood in the doorway for a moment after the door closed. Reese walked over, slid an arm around her waist gently. "You okay?" She nodded. "I think I finally am." The next weekend, Reese invited them all, Lauren, the kids, Nia, Margot, for a picnic at the local park. Nothing fancy, just juice boxes, sandwiches, and space to laugh. Layla twirled in the grass. Kai built a tower out of sticks. Nia cracked jokes while feeding birds. Margot brought puzzles and potato salad. Reese grilled. Lauren watched all of it from a blanket under the shade. Daryl showed up late. He brought plastic cups and watermelon slices. No one asked him to, but no one turned him away. He stayed for an hour, played catch with Kai, helped Layla pick dandelions. Then he stood up, dusted off his jeans, and walked over to Lauren. "I'm gonna head out." She nodded. "Thanks for coming." He glanced at Reese, who was handing juice to Nia. "He's solid." "He is." Daryl looked at the kids one more time. "They're going to be okay." Lauren smiled, soft but strong. "They already are." A week later, Reese proposed, not with a ring, but with a conversation. They were washing dishes. Lauren was stacking plates. Reese was drying them. He said, "I want to grow old doing ordinary things with you." She looked over. "I don't want to replace anyone," he continued. "I just want to be the man who stays, the one who chooses you every day, and them too." He paused. "Will you choose me back?" Lauren didn't rush to answer. She thought about Kai's science kit, Layla's bedtime songs, payroll emails, rainy courtrooms, her signature. She thought about survival, then about joy. She nodded. Yes. They didn't throw a big wedding, just a simple ceremony in a garden. A dress that fit without effort. Reese wore a clean suit. Kai held the rings. Layla threw petals in the wrong direction, and everyone laughed. Margot cried quietly in the back row. Nia caught the bouquet and danced in circles. Daryl didn't attend, but he sent flowers with a short card that read, "Wishing you happiness. You built it all." Lauren kept the card, not out of nostalgia, out of closure. Daryl never expected to owe Lauren anything, not his income, not his peace, and definitely not his survival. But week after week his name appeared at the bottom of a check, one that wouldn't exist without the woman he once walked away from. Lauren didn't flaunt it. She didn't look down on him or hold the pen longer when she signed. She just handled payroll like everything else in her life, with structure, focus, and grace. And that, more than anything, got to him. Because she wasn't petty. She was powerful, and that made the weight heavier. It started to hit Daryl on the little things, like when the office heater broke and Lauren brought in space warmers before anyone else complained, or when someone left food in the break room too long, and instead of sending an email blast, she just cleaned it herself and said, "Let's do better." No attention, no announcement, just quiet accountability. That's who she was now. That's who she always had been, he realized. He just couldn't see it before, too clouded by control and pride. Now, he watched her lead rooms of professionals with a calm that made people lean in. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't threaten. She didn't posture. She simply was. One Friday afternoon, he walked past her office and noticed the door slightly open. She was alone, reviewing contracts, a cup of tea steaming next to her laptop. He tapped gently. "Quick question, if you've got a second." She looked up, not surprised, not guarded. "What's up? Do you still—" He paused. "Do you still hate me?" She blinked, then slowly shook her head. "I don't hate anyone, Daryl. I just no longer carry what doesn't serve me." He stood there, absorbing that. She went back to typing. He walked away. The next week, the company had its quarterly review. Lauren gathered her leadership. Lauren sat in the conference room, crisp blouse, minimal jewelry, and the quiet fire she always carried tucked just behind her calm. Across the table sat the regional director of Baycare Medical Group, a man named Thomas, who had done his homework before requesting the meeting. Beside him sat his assistant, notepad open, pen hovering. Lauren had Reese on her left. He wasn't part of her business officially, but he always showed up when something mattered. Nia was on her right, now her full-time operations coordinator. The deal on the table was clear. Baycare wanted Lauren's company to manage 6 facilities' staffing schedules across 2 counties. It was the largest offer she'd ever received. It came with risks and power. She asked questions, challenged their numbers, suggested alternatives. She wasn't there to impress. She was there to protect what she built. By the end of the hour, Thomas stood and extended his hand. "We'd be honored to work with L&L Enterprises, Miss Lauren. You've got something rare, efficiency with heart." Lauren shook his hand and smiled. "Thank you. I just want my workers to be respected and paid fairly. That shouldn't be rare." Later that night, Lauren stood in front of the mirror brushing her curls loose. Reese was in the closet, changing into his t-shirt and shorts. "Want me to warm up dinner?" he asked. "I don't even think I'm hungry," she said. "I feel full." He smiled. "You should." She turned to him. "Do you think I'm pushing too fast?" He shook his head. "No one who moves with intention is rushing. You're planting, not sprinting." Lauren breathed deeply. "I signed the letter of intent. You're about to change your family's future again." She nodded slowly. "Let's eat," she finally said, laughing. "I changed my mind." The next day, Lauren hosted a staff-wide meeting. She announced the Baycare partnership with firm clarity and a challenge. "This is an opportunity, but only if we stay excellent. I don't believe in growing sloppy. I believe in growing strong." Applause filled the room. Daryl clapped too, standing quietly in the back. He was proud. He was also aching, because the more she rose, the more he remembered what it cost her to survive him. He never laid a hand on her, but he broke her spirit once, and she rebuilt it, without ever swinging back. That same week, Daryl asked to meet Lauren in private. She didn't hesitate. She scheduled it like she would with any other employee. He walked into her office, wearing a dress shirt, no tie, hair trimmed, shoulders squared. "Thanks for making time." She nodded. "What's on your mind?" "I'd like to put in for a leadership mentorship," he said. "I know I've been rebuilding, but I want to grow. Properly." Lauren looked at him closely. "Why now?" "I've stopped trying to be who I was. I'm trying to be someone I respect." A quiet moment passed. She reached into her drawer, pulled out a small folder, and handed it to him. "Here's the structure. You'll shadow our regional coordinator for 60 days. There's no guarantee of promotion. Just the opportunity to learn. He nodded slowly. That's more than fair. And if you try to cut corners, I won't, he said, already on his feet. Thank you. She didn't smile. But she didn't doubt him either. That, he noticed. At home, the kids were buzzing about school picture day. I want braids with beads, Layla announced, holding a pink scrunchie in each hand. Kai said, I want my robot shirt. Reese packed their lunches, quietly smiling as Lauren ran a comb through Layla's hair. Later that night, while the kids slept, Lauren showed him the email confirmation from Paycheck. The official contract would follow next week. I used to sign my name on napkins at work, she said. And now they're mailing me 5-year contracts. Reese kissed her temple. You signed on your own terms. That's why it's real. The following Friday, Lauren hosted a quiet internal celebration. Not flashy, just pizza, drinks, and a slideshow of the company's progress. Daryl stood near the drinks table when the slideshow reached a photo of Lauren, with the twins at her first office space, just a folding table and 2 playpens. Nia narrated, this was back when Lauren used to invoice people on her lunch break while wearing one of the twins strapped to her chest. Everyone laughed. Even Lauren. Daryl watched in silence. Not with bitterness, with clarity. She didn't just work hard. She carried everything while being underestimated. He leaned into Nia. She was always this capable, huh? Nia looked at him. No, she's more, because she had to become it. Alone. The next time Lauren signed paychecks, she paused when she reached Daryl's, not because of anger, because it was symbolic. She signed. She moved on. And when Daryl got home that night, flipped open his check stub and saw her signature again, he didn't wince. He whispered, thank you, and meant it. Because it wasn't just money, it was light. It was food. It was a life he could now build with dignity, signed by the woman he once dismissed. Layla pressed her crayon deep into the paper, her tongue poking slightly out in concentration. She was drawing her family for class. Lauren glanced over while folding laundry and smiled at the bright, uneven stick figures lined up in the middle. Tell me who's who, she asked. Layla pointed. That's me, with the braids and the pink dress. That's Kai, with his robot shirt. That's Mommy. She drew a big heart around Lauren's stick figure. And who's this? Lauren asked, pointing to the tall figure standing next to the kids. Layla smiled. That's Mr. Reese. He always ties our shoes. Lauren hesitated. And Daddy? Layla looked at the paper, then at her mother. He's on the next page. She flipped the page and revealed another drawing. Just Daryl standing alone, holding a gift box. He always brings stuff, Layla said. But he doesn't stay long. Lauren swallowed hard. It's okay, baby. That's honest. Kai chimed in from the carpet, where he was building with blocks. Reese knows the words to our storybook. Daddy still messes them up. Lauren nodded slowly. The truth stung, but it was real. Daryl had started showing up more often, not in grand gestures, just small ones. A science kit for Kai, a music puzzle for Layla, pickups from school once or twice a month, ice cream on Sundays. He wasn't trying to win. He was trying to repair. But kids don't count efforts, they count presence. And the twins, though kind, were clear in their own way. When Kai tripped on the playground and skinned his knee, it was Reese he reached for, not Daryl. When Layla had a nightmare, she didn't ask for her dad, she called for Reese. Lauren never corrected them. She never interfered. She let love show itself. One Saturday morning, Daryl stopped by unannounced with a new picture book. Lauren opened the door. Surprised. They're still sleeping. I can wait. She looked at him, hair neatly trimmed, breath mint on his tongue, a nervous energy around him. She gestured toward the porch. You can sit. But don't wake them. They sat in silence for a moment. Then he asked, do they ever ask about me? Sometimes. He nodded. And? I tell them you love them, that you're trying. That you used to live here, but life changed. Daryl looked down at his hands. I don't want to confuse them. You showing up doesn't confuse them, Daryl. Disappearing does. He nodded again. I missed too much, he whispered. Lauren turned to him. You missed enough. But the door for presents is still open. Just don't use it halfway. At work, Daryl had officially entered the Leadership Mentorship program. He shadowed managers, attended leadership classes, and even led 2 staff meetings. Lauren didn't interfere. She observed from a distance. Nia gave her quiet updates. He listens more than he talks now. Doesn't deflect blame. Offered to stay late and help finish payroll. Lauren simply replied, Good. One Friday afternoon, Reese picked up the twins early from school and brought them to Lauren's office. They ran in like they always did, straight to her desk, hugging her legs, handing her crumpled artwork from their backpacks. Daryl saw it from down the hall. He stepped back, stayed quiet. Kai noticed him first. Hi, he said, holding up his robot drawing. Wanna see? Daryl knelt down. Sure. Layla came over too, cautious but curious. Reese gave them space. For a moment, Lauren watched all 4 of them interact. It didn't feel tense. It felt evolving, like a bridge was being built with soft bricks. Later that night, Lauren sat on the porch with Nia. You ever think the kids are confused? Lauren asked. Nia shook her head. They're not confused. They're aware. What's the difference? Confused kids ask questions. Aware kids observe. Yours know what consistency feels like. They know who stayed. Lauren leaned back. Sometimes, I still feel like I'm holding all the pieces together with tape. Nia sipped her drink. Maybe. But that tape? It's made of grace, girl. And grit. One Sunday evening, Daryl asked Lauren if he could take the twins out. Just him. She hesitated. Not because she didn't trust his love, but because she wasn't sure he'd follow through. Pick them up at 10 a.m. Sharp, she said. Snacks packed. Bring them back by 3. I will. And he did. They went to the zoo, took pictures, ate too much ice cream. When they came back, the twins were happy but sleepy. Daddy got us matching hats, Layla said proudly, and told us about cheetahs, Kai added. Daryl smiled. It felt good, just being with them. Lauren didn't say much, just nodded. But later, she whispered to Reese, it mattered. Lauren leaned against the kitchen counter, watching Reese dance in, socks on the tile floor, while the twins giggled from their stools. He was flipping pancakes with exaggerated flair, catching them mid-air and bowing dramatically like a magician. Sir, that's the 3rd burnt one, Lauren teased. Reese grinned. I'm giving them options, golden brown or crispy crunch. Kai clapped. I like the crunchy ones. Layla scrunched her nose. I don't. Reese pointed with his spatula. Then you, little boss lady, get the fluffiest one of all. The room was warm. Not just from the stove. From something Lauren hadn't had in years. Ease. No one was walking on eggshells. No one was performing for validation. No one was keeping score. This was love, not in words, but in rhythm. The following week, the twins had a class recital. Lauren cleared her schedule early and arrived at the school auditorium with Reese, both holding flowers. Margot met them at the door, holding a small camera and snacks for after. Daryl showed up too. He came alone, carrying a gift bag with colored pencils and a folded drawing pad. He didn't sit next to Lauren or Reese. He found a seat a few rows back. Quiet, respectful. When the curtain lifted, Kai walked out in a robot costume made of silver cardboard. Layla wore a glittery outfit and held a small tambourine. The class sang, swayed, and stumbled through lyrics. But to Lauren, it was perfect. When the performance ended, the twins ran straight into Lauren's arms. Reese handed them their flowers. Margot hugged them both, snapping pictures through happy tears. Daryl waited his turn. When they finally reached him, he knelt, opened the gift bag and said, "For my favorite artists." They smiled, said thank you, then ran back to Reese to tell him about the microphone feedback. Daryl stayed crouched for a moment longer, not rejected, just outside. On the drive home, Lauren turned to Reese. That couldn't have been easy for him. No, but he stayed, She nodded. They didn't ignore him. They just returned to where they feel most rooted. Reese placed a hand on her knee. They know who tucks them in at night. That's not something you can fake. Daryl wasn't bitter, but he was learning. He began to understand that being a father wasn't about showing up sometimes. It was about presence when no one's watching. It was reading bedtime stories twice even when tired, making lunches, remembering appointments, learning which color socks a kid refuses to wear. It was being part of the daily fabric, not just the highlights. He started showing up with fewer gifts and more time, helping Layla with spelling, listening to Kai explain why Saturn is his favorite planet, asking Lauren for parenting tips without ego. He no longer needed to be center stage. He just wanted to be included. One evening, after a long workday, Lauren found Daryl in the living room helping Kai build a cardboard rocket. The table was a mess of tape and cereal boxes, but Kai was focused, smiling. Lauren stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "You two engineers or something?" Kai turned proudly. "Daddy said, we can make it fly." Daryl added, "Just don't ask about the crash landing part." She smiled. "Dinner's almost ready." Daryl looked at her. "Can I stay? Just for the meal?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Sure." That night, they all sat around the same table for the first time in years. No one brought up the past. They just passed plates. After dinner, while Reese helped with dishes and the twins brushed their teeth, Daryl lingered on the porch. Lauren joined him. He looked out at the darkening sky. "You've done something incredible, Lauren." She said nothing. He added, "Not just the business, the home, the kids, yourself." She crossed her arms. "I didn't do it to impress anyone." "I know. That's why it's impressive." She looked at him now. "Daryl, I don't hold resentment, but I also don't owe you closeness. You're their father, and they deserve your presence. But my peace isn't part of that obligation." He nodded, without flinching. "I don't expect it." She raised her eyebrows. "But you hoped." He chuckled. "Old habit. I'm working on it." The next week, Lauren launched a company podcast, L&L Voices, where healthcare workers could share stories from the field. Her first guest was a nurse who started as a CNA with Lauren in year 1. Daryl edited the audio. Reese helped set up the equipment. The twins made the artwork for the episode thumbnails. It wasn't a family business, but it was now a business built around a family. Every other Friday, Lauren still signed the checks. Daryl's name was there, just another row in a spreadsheet. But this time, when she signed it, she thought not about the courtroom or the past, but about the present, the one where her kids felt safe, where her life was balanced, where her former enemy learned humility, where the man beside her never flinched in the face of her strength. Tell us, have you ever had to rebuild peace after someone returned too late? Have your children or someone you love shown you the difference between real presence and performance? Like, share, and subscribe to Mr. Charles Stories for more heartfelt stories that reflect real love, redemption, and the quiet power of those who never stop showing up. Lauren walked into her office just after 7:30 a.m. She liked to be there before everyone else. Before the buzz. Before the emails. Before the world asked her for one more thing. She powered on her laptop, poured herself a mug of cinnamon tea, and opened the file labeled Baycare Phase 2 Rollout. A new city, more facilities, double the staffing need. This was the part no one saw. The late nights, the contracts, the contingency plans. She wasn't chasing growth for glory. She was building stability for her kids, for her team, for the women who reminded her of who she used to be, juggling a bottle, a bill, and a business license all at once. Downstairs, Daryl was already at his desk. He was no longer trying to rise through the ranks. He had settled into something better, consistency. He led his small team with clarity and humility. He didn't demand attention. He earned it, piece by piece. And though he still noticed Lauren's signature on every policy update, every email footer, every company-wide announcement, he didn't feel stung. He felt grateful, because being part of something she built gave him purpose. even if it reminded him of what he once lost. At home, the twins had started talking about when we get older. Kai wanted to build video games. Layla wanted to own a bakery. Reese supported both dreams without hesitation. He bought Kai a beginner coding kit and helped Layla set up her own pretend cupcake shop in the living room, complete with menus and fake prices. Lauren watched them one evening, smiling as Layla tried to charge Reese $20 for a paper muffin. "You didn't make this, baby." "Yes, I did. I imagined it." "That counts." Lauren laughed. "Well then, imagination tax." They paid it gladly. Meanwhile, Daryl was working with Nia on streamlining the company's mobile app for staffing schedules. "This is the first thing they see when they clock in," he said in their team meeting. "It should feel like someone respects their time." Lauren listened in from the back. She didn't interrupt. She didn't add to his point. She just noted it. He was learning, not from fear, from watching her. And for the first time, she believed he might just be the father she once hoped he'd be. That Sunday, Reese took Lauren and the kids to the museum. No cameras, no social media, just them. In the planetarium, Kai pointed out Saturn. "That one's mine," he whispered. Reese said, "Why?" "Because it has rings, like a boss." Lauren squeezed his hand. Layla leaned into Lauren's lap. "When I grow up, can I have an office too?" Lauren brushed her daughter's curls back gently. "You can have anything that doesn't cost you your peace." The next week at work, Lauren was reviewing a list of new hire interviews when Daryl knocked on her open door. "You've got a minute?" She nodded. He stepped in, holding a folder. "This is a personal recommendation for one of the candidates. Single mom, 2 kids, similar story, strong ethics. I vetted her personally." Lauren opened the folder and scanned the resume. Then she looked up. "You vouch for her?" "Yes." "Good. She starts next week. Make sure she has everything she needs." He nodded and left quietly. It wasn't a moment for applause, but it was a moment of respect. A few days later, Lauren arrived home to the smell of pancakes and laughter. Reese was at the stove, apron half-tied, flipping breakfast for dinner, while the twins danced to a cartoon theme song blaring from the TV. Lauren dropped her bag, kicked off her heels, and watched them from the hallway. The way Reese moved, careful not to burn the edges, smiling when Kai tried to steal a pancake, reminded her of something rare. Safety, not the kind built from walls and alarms. The kind built from trust, from someone showing up when no one else does. After dinner, Layla climbed into Lauren's lap, while Reese helped Kai with homework. "Mama," she said softly, "was Daddy always nice?" Lauren blinked. She glanced toward Reese and Kai, who were busy working through fractions. "No, baby," she said gently. "Daddy wasn't always nice, but people grow when they decide to." "Is Reese nice?" Lauren smiled. "Yes, baby. Reese is kind." Layla looked thoughtful. "Can we keep him?" Lauren chuckled. "He's not a puppy. But if we treat him nice, will he stay?" Lauren kissed her forehead. "He's already stayed longer than most." At work, Lauren's agency was preparing for a regional conference. She'd been asked to speak on a panel, Leadership After Loss, Building While Healing. The title struck her. She wasn't a victim anymore. She wasn't a wife scorned. She wasn't trying to prove Daryl wrong. She was proving herself right. Daryl helped her prep the slide deck, ironically. He never made it about their past. He asked what she needed, double-checked her data, and even gave feedback on pacing. The day of the event, as Lauren walked into the venue with Reese by her side, the twins at home with Nia, she felt no fear, only focus. She told the crowd, "I used to think I needed closure from someone who hurt me to move forward, but I learned that closure doesn't come from their apology. It comes from your decision to keep walking." The room went quiet. She continued, "I had twins on my hips and judgment in my ears. People told me it wasn't the right time to chase my degree, or start a business, or dream again. But here I am. Applause, real applause, from people who saw her, not her scars." Back at work, Daryl passed her in the hallway. "You did well," he said. I saw the stream. Thanks. He hesitated. Do you ever miss how we used to be? Lauren didn't flinch. No, because how we used to be nearly broke me. He nodded. I just wanted to say, he added, I respect who you are now. I really do. She met his gaze. Thank you. And that was enough. No longing, no tension, just closure wrapped in clarity. One rainy Thursday, Reese picked up the twins from school. Layla ran into his arms. Mr. Reese, guess what? I was class helper today. Kai handed him a spelling test. 100%. Reese fist-bumped him. That's what bosses do. When they got home, Lauren was already cooking. She turned, smiling at the sight of her whole world walking through the door. Reese kissed her cheek. The twins set the table, and as the rain tapped against the windows, Lauren realized something. This was her reward, not revenge, not payback, but peace that stayed, and people who chose her. Later that night, Reese sat on the couch, holding Layla, while Kai snuggled under his arm. Lauren leaned against the wall, watching. She whispered to herself, he never raised his voice. But he raised our lives. Lauren stood in the school hallway, watching through the classroom window as Layla recited a poem in front of her classmates. The teacher beamed with pride. Lauren felt it too, not for the poem, but for the confidence in her daughter's voice. 4 years ago, she had prayed just to survive. Now, she was raising a little girl who thrived. Reese walked up beside her, holding a cup of coffee. She's got your courage. Lauren smiled without looking at him. She's got her own. That's what love had taught Lauren. You don't need to pass on your wounds. You can pass on your strength instead. Back at the office, her staff buzzed with energy. Lauren's company had just secured a major government contract that would double their hiring across the state. Darryl was among the employees expected to manage a segment of that growth. He didn't speak much these days. He worked hard, did his part, kept to himself. And Lauren preferred it that way. She didn't hate him. She didn't pity him. She had simply let him go, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Letting go wasn't loud. It wasn't bitter. It was quiet. It was choosing not to flinch at his name. It was hearing the twins mention Dad and not feeling tight in the chest. Letting go was freedom. At home, Reese was in full step-up dad mode. He never called himself that. He didn't have to. He picked up Kai from coding club, helped Layla braid her doll's hair, and always checked on Lauren's water intake, especially when she skipped meals from work stress. One night, while tucking Kai into bed, the boy asked, "Why do people stop loving each other?" Reese paused. Sometimes people don't stop loving, they just don't know how to show it right, and it hurts everyone. Kai nodded. Mom doesn't hurt anymore. No, Reese said. She doesn't. That was the quiet goal all along. Meanwhile, Darryl sat alone in his rented apartment, a newer one, closer to work, smaller, humbler. He had started therapy, not for Lauren, but for himself. For the boy in him who thought control meant love. For the man who pushed away the best parts of his life. His therapist once asked him, "What do you regret the most?" Darryl had replied, "That she saw me break her, before I ever saw her build herself." At a weekend school event, both Darryl and Reese showed up. Kai spotted both men. He ran to Reese first, then, politely, hugged Darryl. Lauren saw it all, felt everything, said nothing. At the refreshment table, Darryl walked over. "I see he still chooses Reese first." Lauren answered without venom. "Kids remember who showed up. You still have time to keep showing." He nodded slowly. "I'm trying." I see that. That was all he needed that day. Not a door open. Not a relationship repaired. Just acknowledgement that growth was possible. One morning, Reese surprised Lauren with a weekend trip, just the two of them. Nia agreed to watch the twins. As they drove up the coast, Lauren leaned her head back, eyes closed, letting the sun warm her skin through the window. "You okay?" Reese asked. "Yes, I just never imagined this would be my peace." He reached over and held her hand. You earned it. That weekend, they didn't do much. Walked along the beach, slept in, ate seafood from small diners, talked about everything and nothing. Reese asked, "Do you ever feel guilty for being happy now?" Lauren didn't hesitate. "No, because I paid for this joy, with tears, with nights alone, with hard choices." He kissed her knuckles. "Then let's enjoy every second of it." And they did. Lauren returned from the beach trip, feeling lighter. She walked into her office Monday morning with no makeup, fresh braids, and the kind of peace that couldn't be faked. Her staff noticed. "You look 10 years younger," her assistant whispered. "I took a breath," Lauren replied. "Sometimes that's all we need." She glanced at the inbox, contracts, updates, and one calendar reminder, Layla's parent-teacher conference, Thursday. She forwarded it to Reese before she could overthink it. Downstairs, Darryl reviewed vendor reports with 2 junior analysts. He wasn't leading a department yet, but he no longer shrank in meetings. He had learned to listen, to admit when he didn't know, to give credit instead of take it. He passed Lauren in the lobby later that day. She nodded once. He smiled faintly. That was their rhythm now. No drama, no echo of the past. Just presence. Later that week, Kai fell sick. Reese offered to take him to the pediatrician since Lauren had a client pitch. Darryl showed up too. Nervous, unsure, holding a brown paper bag with juice and crackers. "I just wanted to help," Darryl said. Reese didn't speak, just stepped back to give Darryl the chair beside Kai. Kai said, "You both came?" Reese nodded. "You're important," Darryl added softly. "More than anything." Kai looked between them and smiled. The nurse stepped in and saw them both seated, calm and quiet. "Are you all family?" No one answered. But in that moment, it didn't matter. That evening, Lauren returned home and found Kai asleep on the couch, a juice box beside him, and Reese flipping through a science book. Darryl had left a note. "He's okay. I'm learning." Lauren held the note for a moment before folding it neatly and tossing it in the trash. Growth doesn't always need to be framed. The next month, Layla's recital brought another family gathering. Reese helped her into her sparkly shoes. Darryl brought flowers. Nia came too, with a camcorder in hand. Backstage, Layla whispered to Lauren, "I'm nervous." Lauren knelt. "You don't have to be perfect. Just speak from your heart." Layla nodded, her curls bouncing. On stage, she read a short poem she wrote herself. "Mom is the reason I smile at night. She worked when others left. She stayed when it was hard. And when Mr. Reese came, she learned to smile with her eyes." The audience clapped. Lauren covered her mouth, tears rising. Darryl lowered his eyes. Nia reached for his hand. He didn't pull away. After the show, Lauren hugged Layla tightly. "I'm so proud of you." Reese added, "You lit up that room." Darryl stayed behind, standing alone. Later, he approached Lauren. "I won't get in the way." She turned to him. "You haven't. Showing up doesn't mean forcing your way back. It just means being present." He nodded. "I've learned that." The next week, Lauren's company celebrated its 5th anniversary. There was a rooftop event, catered food, a small string quartet, glasses clinking, laughter echoing under the evening sky. Lauren stood in front of the guests with Reese beside her, Kai and Layla clinging to her legs. She gave a short speech. "I was once told I was nothing, but I've learned what others call nothing is often the start of something big. We grow, we lead and we rise, not in spite of the pain, but because we built something from it." Reese kissed her temple. The guests applauded. Darryl, standing in the back, clapped too. This time, there was no ache in his chest, just closure. Later that night, while folding laundry, Lauren looked at her reflection in the mirror. No crown, no spotlight, just a woman who chose to stay standing. Reese came in, placed a kiss on her shoulder. "Ready for bed?" Lauren smiled. "Always." As they turned off the lights, she whispered to herself, "I'm not what he said I was. I'm not broken. I'm not forgotten. I'm whole, and I'm home." Darryl stared at his pay stub again. The numbers weren't the problem. It was the signature. Lauren Kane. Right below it, CEO, L&L Enterprises. The same woman he'd once said was nothing. Now, her name kept his lights on, paid his rent, put food in his fridge. That fact didn't haunt him anymore. It grounded him. In the early mornings, he arrived before most of the staff. He made coffee, sorted documents, and kept his office organized. No one above him worried about delays. No one below him felt dismissed. He was consistent. One Friday morning, the IT team needed help setting up a client display. Darryl rolled up his sleeves and joined in. It wasn't his job, but he didn't care. From the corner of the room, Lauren passed by and watched him for a few seconds. No emotion, no commentary, just quiet acknowledgement. He'd been there almost a year now, and while they'd never gone beyond polite conversation, Lauren's walls weren't as tall as they once were. Meanwhile, Reese had grown into more than a partner. He had become Lauren's balance. He never competed with her pace. He matched it. He never overshadowed her authority. He supported it. At home, he helped Kai with math problems and encouraged Layla to paint on the weekends. At work, he never hovered, never interfered. He was the calm after every storm. One Sunday, while doing groceries, Reese stopped the cart near the cereal aisle. "You ever think we're already a family?" he asked, nonchalant but curious. Lauren paused, looking at the twins picking cereal boxes. "We are," she said. "We've been one for a while." He smiled. "Good. I just wanted to say it out loud." That week, Lauren got invited to speak at a Women in Business summit. She wore a fitted navy suit, minimal jewelry, and confidence like perfume. Her speech wasn't just about profits or boardrooms. It was about grit. You don't have to be born into power to lead with it. Sometimes, all you have is pain and potential, but if you're willing to outlast the noise, outwork the doubt, and outlove the betrayal, you'll be unshakable. The crowd stood. Tears, cheers, nods. Her words landed where they needed to. Backstage, Reese held a bouquet. Not roses. Lauren never liked those. It was sunflowers and eucalyptus, her favorites. "You crushed it," he said. She kissed him softly. "Thank you for staying." One evening, as Lauren tucked Layla into bed, her daughter asked, "Can I still call Daddy?" "Daddy?" Lauren paused, gently brushing Layla's hair. "Of course, baby. You can love both. That's okay." Layla nodded. "But I love Mr. Reese too." Lauren smiled. "That's okay too," Layla whispered. He hugs tighter. The next day, Darryl asked to speak privately after work. Lauren agreed. They sat across from each other in the conference room. No tension. No need to look away. "I've been saving up," he said. "Planning to get a small place closer to the kids." Lauren nodded. "That would help. I'm not asking for anything. I just want you to know, I'm not wasting the grace." She met his eyes. "Good. They deserve your effort." "I know," he said. "I see it now, what I couldn't back then." She stood to leave. Some lessons cost more when we ignore them. He didn't argue. He didn't cry. He simply said, "Thank you," for not shutting the door. That night, Lauren got into bed beside Reese. He wrapped his arms around her, resting his chin on her shoulder. "You okay?" he asked. "I think I forgave him today," she said. Reese didn't ask for details. He kissed the side of her head. "Then you've won." Darryl never missed payroll day. It wasn't because of the money. He had finally reached a point where the paycheck felt stable. It was the envelope, the name at the bottom, Lauren Kane. He didn't say it out loud, but every signature reminded him of how far she'd come and how far he'd fallen. Not out of grace, out of arrogance. He remembered the day he told her she'd never be anything. Now, she was the reason his child support got paid on time. Lauren didn't see Darryl as a threat anymore. He was simply part of the system she built. She didn't hate him. She didn't pity him either. She simply chose not to carry him. He'd handed her silence. She returned it with structure. He'd given her shame. She built success from it. And now he waited for her signature just to keep his lights on. Reese never gloated, never mocked Darryl. He didn't have to. His presence spoke louder than any insult could. When Darryl picked the kids up on alternating weekends, Reese helped pack their bags. When the kids came home excited about a school project, Reese asked to see it too. It stung at first, but eventually Darryl started to see it differently. Reese didn't replace him. He filled in the empty space. At Kai's science fair, Lauren arrived with Reese. Darryl was already there, holding a handmade sign that read, "Go Kai." Lauren smiled at the effort. So did Kai. When it was time for winners to be announced, Kai didn't win, but he didn't seem to care. Both Reese and Darryl hugged him. That night, Darryl sent Lauren a simple text. He smiled at both of us today. "Thank you for letting that happen." She replied, "It's not about us, it's about them." Weeks passed. Lauren grew more visible. Articles, features, magazine interviews. Her story became a blueprint for resilience. One headline stood out: "From divorced and pregnant to powerhouse CEO, Lauren Kane doesn't miss Darryl." Read every word. There was no bitterness in her voice, only clarity. She spoke of her past only when needed, and never with venom. At the end of the interview, she was asked, "What would you say to the person who told you you were nothing?" She paused, then said, "Thank you. You woke up a part of me I didn't know existed." Lauren was reviewing invoices one day when Nia walked in with her usual iced coffee. "You saw the article?" she asked with a grin. "I did," Lauren replied. "And," Lauren sipped her drink, "feels like it was about someone else. Because that girl who begged him to stay is gone," Nia said. Lauren nodded. "And she's never coming back." Later that week, Darryl approached Lauren during a team lunch. "I know I'm not your friend," he began, "but I'd like to become a better parent." Lauren tilted her head. "Go on. I want to be in their lives more, not just weekends. I've enrolled in parenting classes. I've been volunteering at their school too." She waited, then asked, "Why now?" "Because I don't want to be the reason they question what love looks like." Lauren nodded slowly. "Then show them. No speeches, just consistency." That night, Lauren and Reese sat out on the porch. The twins were asleep. A soft breeze passed through. Reese took her hand. "You're glowing lately." "I feel lighter," she said. "Because he's changing?" "No," she smiled. "Because I stopped holding onto the old version of him." Reese leaned in. "That's power." "No," Lauren whispered. "That's freedom." When Lauren first walked into that co-working space 4 years ago, she carried more than a diaper bag. She carried labels. Too ambitious, too opinionated, too emotional, too pregnant. The receptionist barely looked up. A man seated nearby whispered, "She won't last a month." But Lauren didn't flinch. She smiled politely, laid her laptop on the hot desk she rented by the hour, and began building. Back then, L&L Enterprises was an idea. Now it had 3 branches, a payroll system, and an HR department with her ex-husband's file in it. People used to laugh when she said she wanted to build something while raising twins. Focus on being a mom first. You'll burn out. Why not wait till the kids grow? Lauren heard them, but she listened to herself. She knew the truth. She wasn't building despite being a mom. She was building because she was a mom. Kai and Layla needed to see what grit looked like in real time. And now they did. Every time they stepped into her glass office, Lauren had a morning ritual. She'd arrive early, turn on her playlist, and open her vision document, the same one she wrote while pumping milk at 2 a.m. It wasn't filled with lofty numbers or fluffy words. It had real, raw goals. Pay off debt, put twins in good schools, help single moms find flexible jobs, build something her kids would be proud of. She'd check one off every year. This morning she checked off another, buy the building. Nia screamed when she found out. "You bought it?" Lauren laughed. "I did. You now own the same place where they once doubted you." I don't just own it, Lauren said. I signed a lease to the man who once offered me a closet-sized office. You're wild, Nia said, eyes wide. No. Lauren smiled. I'm the same girl they said wouldn't last. I just stopped listening. Darryl heard the news too. He walked into work that day with a strange mix of emotions. Pride, shame, admiration, regret. He rode the elevator up, past the floor where he worked, and quietly walked to the lobby. There, on the wall, was a new plaque. L and L Tower, founded by Lauren Kane, built on purpose, not permission. He stood there for a while. Later that week, Lauren held a staff town hall. Everyone gathered, even Darryl. She addressed them plainly. I started this company not to impress anyone, but because I didn't have the luxury to fail. I was alone, pregnant, and overlooked. But I knew my children deserved more, and so did I. You're here today not because of luck, but because of your own stories. And here, stories like ours matter. Applause filled the room. Even Darryl clapped. And for once, it didn't feel fake. At home, Reese was prepping dinner. The kids were coloring at the table. Mummy bought a building, Lila said proudly. Kai added, Can we have our names on the wall too? Lauren smiled. You already do, baby. You've been part of this since day one. Reese kissed her cheek. I'm proud of you. She whispered back, Thank you for making room for me to become her. A week after buying the building, Lauren sat in her corner office, reviewing plans to expand her consulting division. She had calls lined up with new partners. 2 were flying in from out of state. 1 had already worked with Fortune 500 companies. But none of that shook her. Lauren wasn't chasing validation anymore. She was selecting vision. From her desk, she could see the skyline. The city that once chewed her up now bent toward her decisions. People who once refused to return her emails now replied with, Happy to hear from you, Lauren. Let's connect ASAP. Downstairs, Darryl sat at his desk. He was good at his job. His numbers were improving. He earned respect again. But every time payroll came through, he hesitated. The check had Lauren's signature on it. Same name. Different power. He never said anything out loud. But every time he cashed it, it stung. Not because of pride, he'd already lost that. But because of clarity. Lauren didn't need to prove she was enough. She became the proof. One afternoon, Lauren passed Darryl in the elevator. He stepped aside respectfully. Big day? Every day's a big day, she replied calmly. They rode in silence. Before she stepped out, he said, The building looks good on you. Lauren paused. It was never about the building. Darryl nodded. I know. It's about finally being seen. She looked him straight in the eye. I've always seen myself. That was enough. The elevator doors closed, and Darryl was left staring at his own reflection. Lauren didn't stop at one tower. She reinvested, opened a job training non-profit for single parents, named it after her mother. She partnered with schools to offer business mentorships to teen girls. She created child-friendly co-working hubs so no mom had to choose between a deadline and daycare. Every step of the way, Reese supported her, never with flashy words, just steady presence. He took the twins to dance and robotics. He meal prepped when Lauren traveled. He laughed at her corny jokes when she was tired. And every night he asked, What do you need? Not, What's for dinner? Not, Where's my shirt? But, How can I help? Darryl noticed. He noticed Reese picking up the twins. He noticed the respect Lauren had for herself. He noticed the peace that now followed her like perfume. No storm. No drama. Just strength in motion. And during one company event, while Reese held Lauren's purse and Layla's juice box, Darryl smiled sadly. He finally saw what Lauren needed back then. Not control. Not permission, just support, and he hadn't given her any. At the end of the year, Lauren was invited to speak at a women's leadership summit. She stood before hundreds. Success isn't loud, she told them. It's not flashy cars or social media claps. It's showing up when no one's looking. It's knowing your value when no one claps yet. It's being called too ambitious. And deciding that's not an insult, it's a prophecy. The crowd rose to their feet. And backstage, Reese clapped the loudest. Lauren hadn't planned to become a symbol. She just wanted to survive, then to provide, then to grow. Now, people called her name in rooms she never stepped into. Investors referred to her agency as a case study in grit. Magazines called her the face of modern leadership. But Lauren? She called herself a mother who refused to fold. It was a quiet Friday when the email came. Subject: National Women in Business Awards. Final nominees announced. Body: Congratulations, Lauren Kane. You've been selected as a finalist for Entrepreneur of the Year. She leaned back in her chair, eyes on the screen. She didn't cry. She smiled, slow and still. That night, Reese made her favorite dinner: pasta with grilled shrimp and lemon cream sauce. The twins helped set the table, throwing in paper crowns for fun. Kai handed her a note he wrote with crayon. To Mommy the winner. Layla added stars and glitter. Lauren tucked it into her purse. It meant more than the email. She wasn't seeking the world's applause anymore. But she appreciated it when it came. You've earned every inch of this, Reese said, kissing her hand. She smiled softly. Not every inch, but I fought for most of it. The night of the awards came. She wore a sleek, dark emerald dress, hair pinned, earrings subtle. Reese stayed home with the twins, letting her walk in as a force of her own. When they called her name, Lauren didn't jump. She stood, breathed, and walked with calm certainty. On stage, under warm lights, she took the mic. I used to think success was something you begged for, she began. But I learned it's something you build, brick by brick, mistake by mistake, win by quiet win. She glanced at the room, some faces teary, some stunned, and one day she continued, you'll sign something, an offer, a check, a lease, and realize your name means something now. They rose to their feet. A standing ovation. Across the city, Darryl watched the broadcast alone. His TV flickered in a quiet apartment. His suit hung in the corner, one he wore for interviews that didn't call back. He saw Lauren shine. He saw her own the room, and for the first time he smiled with no bitterness. Only respect. She had taken every or nothing and built a world from it. Back at home, Lauren walked into the kitchen, heels in hand. The lights were dim. Reese waited with 2 glasses of sparkling juice and a folded blanket on the couch. You were incredible, he whispered. I was honest, she replied, sinking into his arms. Same thing, he said. They sat in silence, Lauren's head resting on his shoulder. I think I'm ready, she said. For what? For all of it. More kids, a home of our own, maybe even slowing down a little. Reese smiled. We'll build it. Together. No rush. She kissed his cheek. You're my peace. You know that. And you, he said, are the strongest woman I've ever met. 2 weeks after the awards, Lauren stood in front of a glass building. A downtown high-rise. 40 floors of sharp lines and quiet money. This was her next move. L&L Enterprises had officially outgrown its current headquarters. Her team had secured funding. The board was confident. The contracts were ready. And this building, the same one that once denied her an entry-level job when she was 6 months pregnant, was now up for lease. Not a desk, not a floor. The whole building. Lauren smiled. Schedule the signing, she told her assistant. The signing ceremony was small, clean, efficient. But before putting pen to paper, the broker said, just so you know, the previous owner was Darryl Kane. You'll be buying him out completely. Lauren didn't flinch. I'm aware. The pen felt cool in her hand. She wrote slowly. Lauren M. Kane, CEO, L&L Enterprises. Each loop of her signature felt like a closing door. Not out of revenge, but finality. This time, she didn't walk away empty-handed. She walked away with ownership. Darryl heard the news on a Monday. He was walking to a meeting when his phone buzzed with an alert. Kane sells Kane Tower to ex-wife's firm. The article included a photo of Lauren in a fitted blazer, shaking hands with city officials. His old world was now hers. He paused mid-step, stared at the image, and felt something unfamiliar: relief. He no longer had to pretend. She had earned everything. Later that week, Lauren took Kai and Layla to the building. They wore matching outfits. Layla held a clipboard. Kai held a walkie-talkie. "This is our building?" Layla gasped. Lauren smiled. "Yes, yours too." Kai pressed the elevator buttons like a pro. Layla checked imaginary lists. "Where's Mr. Reese's office?" Kai asked. "We'll build him one," Lauren said. At home, Reese had prepared dinner, a small celebration: grilled chicken, mashed potatoes and carrot cake. "You looked proud today," he said, handing her a drink. "I was," she replied. "But it wasn't about the building." He raised an eyebrow. "It was about walking through a door I once cried outside of," she added. Reese wrapped his arms around her. "No one can erase you now." That night, after putting the twins to bed, Lauren found an old photo album buried in a box. She opened it slowly. There were ultrasound photos, hospital bracelets, a picture of her in a cap and gown, holding 2 toddlers. Every image told a story she had once been too tired to narrate. She closed the album. She didn't need to hold on to the past anymore. It had already shaped her, but it didn't define her. Weeks passed. Darryl continued working quietly in his new role. He attended parent-teacher conferences, paid child support without being asked, learned to listen without interrupting. One evening, while picking up the twins, he lingered. "Can I say something?" he asked Lauren. She nodded. "You're the best thing that ever happened to me, not because of how you made me feel, but because of who you made me face." Lauren didn't soften, but she didn't turn away. "Thank you for saying that," she replied. He nodded and left. No drama, no begging, just a man facing his truth. Months later, Reese proposed again, not with a ring, but with a home. He showed her a quiet piece of land not too far from the city, room for a garden, a wide porch, a place the kids could run without fear. "I want to grow old here with you." Lauren looked at the field, at Reese, at their future. "Yes," she said again. 1,000 times yes. Epilogue. Lauren's name now sat on more than company papers. It was on deeds, on scholarships, on foundations that helped single mothers return to school. Every time she signed something, she did so knowing she was once called nothing. Now, she was the signature that moved rooms. And every night she came home, not to a mansion, but to something better. Peace, love, and 2 children who knew their mom never folded. If this story touched your heart, type "she signed her name with power" in the comments. Tell us, have you ever been counted out by someone who didn't see your worth? Or have you had to rebuild your life with children watching your every move? Let Lauren's story remind you, and you don't need revenge. You need vision. And the ones who walk away don't get to define your value. Your healing doesn't need applause. Your growth doesn't need permission. Real love shows up. It doesn't ask for credit. It earns it. Like, share, and subscribe to Mr. Charles Stories for more true and inspiring tales that reflect what it means to survive, rise, and stay gentle through it all. Because sometimes the best success is peace.